There's no better way to start off this episode than sharing my bias, which is just listen closely, boys and girls. Ready? Ready? Yeah. You're talking about caffeine and, more importantly, energy drinks on this episode, which is clearly I have a subtle bias and it's near and dear to my heart. So I'm looking for a doctor is about to drink an energy drink. My Lanta.
So interesting you say that, because I guess so many people, when I ask them about their nutrition, they're like, well, I don't drink a lot of coffee or caffeine, or they make that comment. I'm like, that's not really something I'm honestly usually that worried about.
And actually, I want to kind of tell a fun story at the beginning of this as we kind of unpack this episode. This was years ago. I had a couple buddies up at the beach house, and one of my buddies' wife is some medical professional. I can't remember if she is a PA or a nurse prac, somewhere in that realm. And we're on the deck, and I pop open a Rain or one of them, bang, one of the energy drinks, and she looks at me and she goes, "You're not drinking that, are you? Those are so bad for your heart. Your dad's a heart doctor. How can he accept that you're drinking those?" And you couldn't put this in a movie better. She starts just like kind of leaning in on that whole bit. And sure enough, my dad walks out onto the deck, pops open his own can and starts drinking it. I start dying laughing. It was super funny. And the obviously, just because there are doctors who smoke who know smoking's bad for you, but at the same time, as we kind of unpack this, not like as we go into the science and where the clinical research actually is on caffeine and in particular energy drinks, people think they're way worse than they really are. Yes, there's limits you got to be aware of, but it's out of everything in your diet, it's relatively low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it's not something I typically worry about for my patients a ton, unless they're complaining of sleep issues, of palpitations, things like that. So it's not really a big concern for me. And apparently not for the cardiologist either.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always important as we kind of unpack this. The flip side of the coin, Dad always talked about how in a average year, he would have 1 to 2 people come in that were between the ages of 18 and 25 with heart attacks or heart arrhythmia problems because of the combination of caffeine and stimulants like Adderall or whatever, grinding for like colleges, grinding during like finals week. So that stuff happens. Yeah, you're adding the Adderall, a bunch of Adderall who's not used to it, and then a bunch of caffeine. Yes, the overstimulation can cause some heart issues, but he's like, again, that happens 1 or 2 kids a year, and it's not that prevalent. But it does happen. And so vitals check, walk me through the science, walk me through.
Well, to start, I created a quiz for you.
I'm unaware of this, so here we go.
See how much David knows about caffeine. You ready? Okay. So first question, after you drink an energy drink, how long does it take the caffeine to hit peak levels in your bloodstream? What do you think?
You drink the caffeine at one point. I would say it peaks in less than 15 minutes.
Okay, so between 15 minutes and 45 minutes. So caffeine is, I think it's pretty good. You could have been way worse off on that. Caffeine is rapidly and completely absorbed in humans, 99% within 45 minutes. So there's a little bit that can be a little bit, but like the vast majority of the caffeine is absorbed by 45 minutes. So it is, and more rapid absorption can happen if you do use like a gum containing caffeine, because it goes through the oral mucosa, so that would be even faster. So if you really want a hit of caffeine, you might want
Makes sense.
gum.
That goes straight in the bloodstream.
Yeah. I think you're doing pretty well. I say you're 1 for 1.
1 for 1.
All right, next question. This is true or false. So, I mean, this is not quite as hard.
Oh, 50-50.
So true or false, you can build a tolerance to caffeine so it doesn't give you the same boost over time. Good work. That was an easy one.
Wow.
So one of caffeine's main mechanism is blocking which receptors?
Adenosine.
Yes, good work. And adenosine typically binds these receptors. And why do we care about this? Because when adenosine binds these receptors, it makes you sleepy. So when caffeine is binding these instead, then you just get the lack of sleepiness, essentially, which we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, caffeine does not make you more energized.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel less tired.
By blocking these adenosine receptors.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Caffeine does a lot in the body, and there's a lot of research on this. So I found it actually quite fascinating to dive into, but we can't go talk about everything. But okay, next question. Is this a myth or a fact? So I guess it's another true false. An afternoon energy drink. If you drink an energy drink in the afternoon, it won't affect your sleep if you don't go to bed until after midnight. Is that true?
So the half-life for caffeine is 4 to 6 hours.
All right.
So I
Get in
would,
there.
so I would say as long as you finished your quote unquote caffeine by say noon or 2, midnight, it shouldn't affect your sleep.
I guess it's true. I mean,
I gave it a little buffer.
You did. But no, that is absolutely true. So the half-life, so that is the amount of time that it takes to reduce the substance in half to half its original, is 5 to 6 hours. So solid work.
I'm just putting it out
this.
there. I was not pre-taught on these questions. I know my caffeine because I justify certain things. I will talk about that when we get into context and nuance, how I do things.
Yeah, but so if you do drink a 200, say, milligram caffeine drink in the at 4 p.m., then you will still have 100 milligrams of caffeine in your body at 10 p.m. So if you think that, oh, I'm going to bed after midnight, it'll be fine, you might not be.
You still have some.
Yes. So that was my quiz. Solid work.
I did 100%.
I'm impressed. David's good at
Come on.
David's good at quizzes. All right. So then diving into more of that, what does research show us is the correct amount? Because I think that's what people probably wonder the most. So how much caffeine is too much? I think that's a good question.
Is that a question for me, or are you just going to say it?
Well, you can go if you want.
So from my research, and you're going to have to confirm or deny,
Yes.
FDA maxes out the average person between 400 and 600 milligrams a day.
So everywhere I read was no more than 400 milligrams a day. And the reason they give that number is, from what I took from the research, was that there has been no negative effects seen at that dose. So it doesn't mean that if you drink more than that, you're going to have negative effects. But they know that as long as you stay under 400, you should be okay. And David, how much caffeine do you drink every day?
I would say average between 500 and 700 milligrams a day.
So what do you think about the 400 limit there?
I'm a large male, and I would justify my fact that I have, number one, a tolerance, and number two, I'm above the average sized individual.
There is truth to
That
this.
I will justify my little above what's clinically applicable.
So good. Okay, bringing in tolerance. Do you want to explain what you mean? Well, so yes, so you drink a lot of caffeine. So those adenosine receptors, which you talked about, they get full of caffeine. And then so what does your body do? So it really can change how those adenosine receptors are experiencing the stimulus of the molecule, or it actually makes more receptors. So that is why then when you stop drinking caffeine, you get that crash and you feel terrible because you get this rush of adenosine back onto the receptors. And what does adenosine on the receptors do? It makes you feel really sleepy.
If I never stop drinking caffeine, I will never feel tired.
I did not say that, but I see where you came to that conclusion. So yes, if you continue to drink caffeine at a regular rate, you will probably feel okay. But it's when you stop drinking it, once you've built up that tolerance, that you're going to feel really crummy. So which is why it can be hard for people to get off of drinking coffee or energy drinks or whatever. So make sense? All right. And then energy drinks, typically all energy drinks are different, but they can have anywhere from 70 milligrams of caffeine, anywhere up to 300 milligrams of caffeine, which David knows well because his favorite energy drink.
Actually, a ghost. We are not sponsored right now.
But Rain has 300?
300.
Okay.
This is why I kind of like the ghost size where they're 200 milligrams, because then I can justify up to 3 a day, where I can only really justify up to 2 a day with Reigns.
But that means you have to buy more of them.
It's true, but I get to drink them more. I will say I drink energy drinks at this point in time more because I love the taste and it helps me feel full. The feeling of like hunger gets stunted than like any type of energy. I have plenty of energy. Energy is usually not an issue of mine.
But if you didn't drink an energy drink, what would happen?
We're not going to find out.
All right. Put in the comments, is David addicted to energy drinks? Yes or no?
It reminds me of the video that popped across my social media. It was some dude and he was like, people keep telling me how bad coffee is for me. So I spent the last 90 days not drinking coffee to see how they say once you get off of it, you feel better. I can tell you one thing. After 90 days of not drinking any coffee, the only thing that was, or it was like the only thing that changed was my feeling to live. Like,
Would you have less of it?
yeah, like we just like I had no desire to live anymore after cutting out caffeine.
It's very dramatic. It's very dramatic. Do you think you would feel that way?
I like my caffeine. It's good for you. Actually, some clinical data behind that. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then okay, so you mentioned coffee. So coffee is coffee. It has caffeine, right? But energy drinks typically have more than just caffeine. So what else do they have in them? You know?
Citrulline malate, beta alanine. A lot of them have taurine, L-carnitine, some other enes.
And there's something called guarana. I don't know what that is.
Guana. Yeah, Guarana.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that is a caffeine that comes from it's a different source.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about it, but a lot of those different additives can be put into energy drinks, and I found that these actually can amplify the effects of caffeine.
Okay.
So just take note of that. I mean, you're already drinking 300 milligrams, and then you may have an amplified response depending on what's in the energy drink.
That was one of the things that I was looking forward to kind of unpacking is one of the things that I have found is because again, we're kind of bringing two topics together. Caffeine and energy drinks. And in general, caffeine to a mild dose has pretty much only benefits. Like, we won't go into details, but in general, there's not a lot of concern.
Oh.
But there is some data out there that we don't know the long-term ramifications of, but with energy drinks, the combination of caffeine with taurine, with all of these things together, may be causing some problems.
There were several studies that showed if they looked at caffeine versus placebo versus caffeine in an energy drink, the negative effects were typically in the caffeine with energy drinks. Just the caffeine alone did not seem to be the problem in a variety of different studies. So yes, you are correct. And now when we're talking about this 400 milligram limit, we are talking about regular adults, non-pregnant adults. So if we're talking about pregnant adults, they don't recommend more than 200 milligrams. And then kids, they don't recommend more than 100 milligrams. And they do not recommend energy drinks at all. Yeah, for the kids. I mean, I think it had to do with body mass size. So the effects of a dose of caffeine, as you brought up, you're a larger male, kids are smaller. And so that was one of the reasons. I feel like there was another reason. One of it was like, well, they might not have developed the tolerance that adults have. I ran into that, but you're right. I couldn't find a lot on that specific topic. It was just like, it shouldn't be done in kids.
Gotcha.
Blanket statement. So if anyone knows more details, please let us know.
I drank them in high school.
I'm sure there are plenty of high schoolers drinking it. I do not think that
It
this
is so
is
funny because they
not an
literally,
issue.
well, they literally say on cans of energy drinks, let me find it. Yep. Only intended for persons 18 years or older, but there's no like gas station or carding high
Right.
school
They're not
kids and
picking
middle school
ages.
kids. It's interesting. It's like they protect their liability, but it's like
Well, I know it is
actually
really
it's
interesting.
just gotta find it fascinating.
Well, because if you look into like the regulations of food and what they say about like what can be in certain things, it's is generally the grass generally recognized as safe. Do you know what I'm talking about? So they look at like something like caffeine and they go, "Hey, is this harmful? Is it good? Is it okay?" And they've labeled caffeine as grass or generally recognized as safe from a food product. And I don't know all the details of how they decide these things. So they're not saying it's good for you. They're just saying, well, it's probably safe for you, but they don't give much regulation beyond that. Let me see this can a second too. What other amazing things does it say this does
Kidding?
for you? What's low calories? Great.
Yeah, this is one of my
Natural caffeine. Epic focus and legendary energy. I mean, most caffeine or most energy drinks put a lot of claims on there.
Yeah, they do. The couple things on here that I always find so funny, and that's actually one of the things I will say when it comes to energy drinks in general. Just like I say with soda, choose the diet versions.
True.
Like, I don't get it. It's the 21st century.
Because David, some
People
people
still
don't like the
drinking
taste.
regular sugar, like Red Bulls and all. I don't get it. I don't.
They don't like the taste of aspartame or stevia or sucralose. I can guarantee that's a big reason.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean, I'm with you. I think it's worth a slight decrease in the flavor to get 0 calories or less calories. Because don't drink your, I would recommend not drinking your calories
In general,
in general.
that's what gets me.
Yeah. Now, going back to some of the research. So there has been research that shows that people who drank, this was a study of drinking a 32-ounce energy drink, and then they checked at 60 minutes post-drink. They checked the EKG. And so they looked at something called the QTC interval, and they showed that it was prolonged 60 minutes after this energy drink. And it also showed higher blood pressure in people 60 minutes after with this energy drink. Yeah, so QTC prolongation in and of itself isn't always bad, but if it gets bad, if that interval gets long enough, it does predispose people to certain arrhythmias that can be deadly. There's one called Torsades de Pointes, and other different things that can happen to the heart that's really bad.
Gotcha.
Now, do people that drink energy drinks get to this level typically? No. But again, it's just something to take note of, that there are changes to the EKG, meaning the rhythm of the heart, and how it, we call, repolarizes. That does change with a significant energy drink intake. And blood pressure is increased. So that's the truth.
I mean, again, that's any stimulant that you have an issue of increased blood pressure, and we I don't think we talked about it in this episode, but I think it's such an important topic because it made it in the last one. Oh, that's what it was. You're gonna laugh. Two things. We're going on a tangent. I'm sorry. Number one, it is so funny to me. There was when we were talking about 2 episodes ago when it was like patients want time, doctors don't have it, and we were talking about the context of what a doctor is talking to you about, how that all works, how that all breaks down, what you want to talk about with your knee versus the reality of your blood pressure. Hey, your knee is important to you, and I get it, but your blood pressure is 210 over 130, and that's way more important than your knee. I'm sorry. And the comments of people the comment section of these clips when they made, like, I think it was TikTok, was hysterical.
But people didn't like that?
They didn't like that. And the other one that I found hysterical, this one just came up with the last one with alcohol. This guy commented, I drank heavily in my 20s, and my doctor, I was having stomach pain, and my doctor biopsied my liver twice, and both times came back normal, but he was like, it's cirrhosis, you're drinking too much, it's cirrhosis. And it wasn't, and it was Crohn's disease. And so that's why I don't listen to my doctor, because blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there going, let me get this straight. Because your doctor made a mistake in the diagnosis of stomach pain, it justifies you drinking too much?
I know, those things don't.
It was so
work.
I was just sitting there going, like, I left a comment and I'm like, dude, obviously there are people that drink and smoke and live into their 80s and 90s. Is drinking and smoking good for you or okay, like not bad for you? No, it's still bad.
We preempted that whole episode, so people listen to the whole episode with the fact that many people do these things like smoke and drink and have no problems.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah,
no one is saying that you can't have that happen.
It was just so funny to me because it's like it's that classic, well, my doctor did this, and it's like, it's so funny how, like, because one person has one experience, they then try to justify 8 billion people's experiences. It is just so funny.
I'm very happy that this person did not have liver cirrhosis.
Yeah.
Good for him. But that does not negate the truth.
Alcohol consumption.
So, all right. Anything else you wanted to say on our vitals check?
Vitals check? Not really. I mean, obviously, we went down, like, what's considered too much caffeine. We talked about the pros and the cons. There is some data that potentially could put into question. Again, this is the whole thing. It's like we talked about in the last episode when you talk about non-sugar sweeteners and some of the meat Diet Coke. If in the future, if there were some really strong studies done that showed diet soda caused cancer, it would put into question what I do for myself and where those limits are. Now, is there anything even close to suggesting that right now? Absolutely not. Same thing with energy drinks. It's like this prolonged QT and stuff like that. Does it potentially put into question in the future maybe where these limitations are of you shouldn't have more than this for this amount of time? Fine.
That just don't go too far in one direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's the all or none. And it's like, so for me, again, it's just in general, is there any data to suggest if you have 1, maybe 2 of these a day over an extended period of time, does it show any damaging effects? No.
No, and I think you always have to bring in this conversation too that every person is different. And
Mhm.
that is why medicine is interesting and that's why it's complex and that's why it can be challenging because you may metabolize caffeine different than the next person.
Yeah, actually, that's a really fun one. Dad, for example, whether that's because of tolerance or whatever, I can drink 300 milligrams of caffeine and it does nothing. Dad drinks more than, say, 180.
Mhm.
So he tends to lean towards like a Celsius because anything above a Celsius in caffeine,
How
he
much
starts
is
getting a little head
how much
rush.
caffeine's in a Celsius?
180,
Oh,
160 or
okay.
180. And then like this is 2,
Uh-huh.
and then rain is 3, 300. And so like in general, dad always talks about how if he has more than 180 milligrams in a sitting, he'll get a head rush. I don't.
Right. And so, I mean, if someone else says, well, you shouldn't drink 200 milligrams of caffeine because you're going to have these symptoms. Well, that might be the case for that person, but that does not necessarily apply to everyone because they probably metabolize it differently than you. They may, depending on what you ate that day, sometimes it gets metabolized differently. Like if you have more fiber, I read that changes how it's metabolized. So everybody's different and you can always generalize.
Very true. All right. So kind of going more towards um transition of context. Like for me personally, like I'll walk through how I think of things because I've looked through the data on caffeine in general and like energy drinks. My general rule of thumb is I max out between 400 and 600 milligrams a day. In general, obviously, occasionally it doesn't, but in general, that's where I do. And then number two, since I aced that quiz earlier, and I'm quite aware of the scientific effects of caffeine and energy drinks, I max out 300 milligrams at one time, and I won't have another 300 milligrams for at least 4 to 6 hours.
A half life?
Because the half life. And so, like, because like that's so super important. It's like, oh well, 4 to 600 milligrams in a day. That's true, but if you had 600 milligrams at one time,
Good point.
that's a large
Mhm.
dose. And so generally the way I think of caffeine is no more than 300 milligrams at one acute time.
Mhm.
And if I do, I'm gapping it by 4 to 6 hours before I have my next. So let's say I had a pre-workout at 7 in the morning.
Mm.
So then I'm like, okay, cool. I just had pre-workout, worked out. Worked out for 2 hours. I get back. It's now 11. So that's 4 hours. So at that point, I'm like, I could, if I wanted to, consider caffeine at between 11 and noon to then play into, but because like now the half-life, I know it's down to at least 200 at this point. And so I'm not creating too big of a rush. Usually like 4 hours is my minimum. Usually it's more like 5 or 6. So it's like if I have my pre-workout at 6:30 to 7 in the morning, I'll usually have something at noon or 1.
So, okay, I think you meant to agree, but why do you drink your energy? Why do you choose that?
So it's super interesting. Number one, I love the taste. And I will argue I get less of the energy side of it and more of the it helps me stunt my hunger. Bubbles and the caffeine, because that's one of the benefits of caffeine, actually. Stimulants in general. This is why people who take Adderall and stuff lose weight, because it stunts hunger. I would argue this helps me with hunger because of the stimulant and the bubbles. And so I would argue that plays more of a considerable role than the caffeine and the energy
When did you
from
start
it.
drinking energy drinks?
Years.
Years, okay.
Years.
Why did you start then, though? Was it because you knew of that effect, or was it something else? Oh,
Couldn't
'cause I mean, another benefit is performance in sports athletics. So, a lot of people drink pre-workout
pre-work. I mean,
and things like that. So, I mean, I didn't know if that was a reason that maybe you started it.
yeah, I would say because like I guess because there's a difference between the performance of the fitness side
Yeah.
and then just like a pick me up in the afternoon. Yeah, I've been doing pre-workout and stuff for years because you definitely feel it like because obviously in a pre-workout there's more than just caffeine and there's data behind it. You get your beta alanine, your citrulline malate, you get the pumps, the pump performers versus the caffeine versus all this kind of stuff. And it can help increase performance counts, all this kind of stuff. It's not crazy. Like I'll make sure it's known. Like
It's not gonna make you a
it's not
significantly better
steroids.
athlete.
Yeah, it's not like you're blasting PEDs. My gosh, before I did pre-workout, my max bench was 225 and I took pre-workout, now it's 315. Like that's not how it works. Yeah, but there is recovery and all this kind of stuff like between sets. That same thing with creatine monohydrate, same way. How like the data between like with creatine is based upon from what I've read, it's like okay, so um say you're at a certain weight and you're maxing out at 12 without creatine. With creatine, you may get 13, you may get 14, because with the body there is some what's the term? I don't want to call it endurance, but
There is
there's a
something to
performance
that.
endurance
The
benefit.
lack of fatigue or the fatigue.
Yeah, the fatigue threshold is
Yeah.
a little but again, it's not crazy. We're
No,
talking like if normally it's 12 reps max, you may get 13, you may get 14. It's not.
but it's there. So there's the performance benefits. There's you said the hunger,
Mhm.
blunting aspects. There's people use it because
Pure enjoyment. Like, honestly,
but
this
like,
tastes friggin'
don't you
delicious.
think you get
Like,
the taste from something that's not an energy drink though? A Diet Coke has caffeine too. 'Cause other people use it for like people with ADHD take stimulants,
mhm.
medications, but then some people don't take the medications and they find that taking, an energy drink or caffeine during the day
There's
can help
there
their
is
focus.
there is a justification that maybe I have a undiagnosed ADHD and caffeine is my own self-medication strategy. Is it possible? Maybe, but, I digress.
Yeah, I think that's possible. True that. So, do you feel like the benefits you get from caffeine outweigh some of those
I'm not concerned.
potential risks?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
and
concerned.
that's where I am at too.
Yeah.
I mean, I even looked up to see are there any case studies of like people that actually drank an energy drink that had a medical issue?
I was about to tell you a case study. I forgot I got to tell you this personal case study. So, dad told me this story from years ago. He had a truck driver come in with a heart arrhythmia problem. So, he's walking through it. I don't know what the arrhythmia problem was. Maybe we should have dad on sometime to
Yeah,
walk through
right.
it 'cause it's fascinating. And he's unpacking this, and so he's like, "Okay, first and foremost, you're a truck driver, so let's be real here. How much caffeine are you consuming? How much coffee, whatever?" And this truck driver goes, "I don't know, 3, 4, sometimes 5." It was coffees, and dad's like sitting there going, 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee. That's nothing. Like, say a cup of coffee, yeah, in general is between 80 and 120 milligrams of caffeine, somewhere in that, depending on boldness and espresso and all this kind of stuff.
Any good history taker will know you must clarify.
Exactly. So then exactly. So then he started unpacking it and he goes, okay, if 3, 4, 5 doesn't really move the needle, but they started talking more and then ends up being he asked the question, like, hey, what are you drinking it out of? Is it cups? And he goes, oh no, it's my thermos. And then he okay, what is this thermos? And then this thermos was it was like 4 to 6 cups in this thermos, like a big old thermos, which means he was drinking between like 20 and 30 cups of coffee a day.
And like a cup, so a 12-ounce cup, I think is around what, 135 milligrams. So you
So he's
multiply
having
that
say he was
by
having like a 36 to 48 ounce thermos.
and
So
how
he's
many
drinking
of
4
those?
times 3 to 4. So he's drinking between 14 and 21 cups of coffee a day.
That's a lot of coffee.
Yeah. And so then he was like, okay, let's pull that back a little bit. And his heart arrhythmia problem went away.
Stop at the bathroom less often too. That's insane. Yeah, and so I think I mean, I was trying to find case studies like that, and there's not that many of them. Like they're here and there, but then the question is always, well, was it the energy drink or the caffeine this person drank, or was it something else? Because sometimes you can't always like there's a correlation, but you don't know if that's the actual cause of somebody's like heart issue. So in general, there's not that many bad things happening to people that
Again, just don't blast them. Choose the sugar frees, 1 to 2 a day. There's not really any concern. Separate those 1 to 2 a day, whatever the caffeine choice is, by 3 to 4 hours. Don't drink them usually after, say,
I
4?
was gonna say, I mean, well, it depends on how much you're drinking, but 4 may be a little late for well, depending on what time you go to bed. See, that's it matters. But there is a negative impact on people's sleep.
Correct.
So, I mean, if sleep is an issue for you and you are drinking caffeine, just
What happens?
Reevaluate that maybe.
Yeah, and that's where like individual symptoms based upon what you're doing. Yeah, if you're having sleep quality problems, something to consider. The only problem is sometimes sleep quality is one of these ones that it's hard to get, and so it's something you may have to just like, hey, if you feel groggy,
Right. How do you feel during the day?
yeah, and then kind of reevaluate from there. So, all right, last anything last as we wrap this thing up?
The only other thing that I thought was interesting was I mentioned it earlier, but these health claims they put on energy drinks.
That's annoying. They say it burns fat and they do all type of
I
stuff.
mean, do you feel the energy drink should be marketed as healthy, or are they just like enjoyable and can give people some energy? I mean, I don't drink energy drinks. I like coffee.
I don't know how Celsius gets away with it, to be honest. Well, actually, they star it. Like Celsius puts on their can burned body fat or something like
Mhm.
that, and they put a little asterisk next to it. And then if you go to the asterisk to the bottom of the can, it
Or
goes
say, actually, not
not
really.
clinically proven or something.
Well, that's what they got away with it. So, just I think it's be careful of marketing. Good marketing is so prevalent.
Yeah, the claim side of it. Again, it's a subtle benefit with if you are going to population again 1 to 2 from a energy perspective. Because again, that's the hard part too. Red Bull has like 120 to 160 milligrams of
Uh,
caffeine. Then you have something that has 200. Then you have Rain and Bangs that have 300.
uh-huh.
I haven't seen anybody from an energy drinks
Above that?
perspective above 3.
Okay.
I think everyone kind of knows that like
Maybe not.
300 in a single can is probably your limit.
For you big guys.
Yeah, and I get that, but and that's why sometimes I tease. I'm like, I kind of like the ones that have 200 milligrams because I can drink 2, and then if I do want a third, I can get away with it. But if I drink 2 Rains, it's over. Like that, I can't do
But
it.
I mean, if you take a cost analysis factor,
That's true.
you can get 2 for the price.
I always
You're paying less money.
That's true, and I always get the joke, which is like technically, and I can't remember. This may not be true, but I'm pretty sure it's true. Is caffeine is clinically known as the most abused drug in the world.
Okay, people say it.
People
I've
say
read.
that,
Okay, but
but it
then
makes most sense. It makes
my
sense.
question. Okay, it is the most used like stimulant medication in the world, right? But is what people are doing with it, is it technically abuse? Because I don't like when people say that it's the most abused drug. Is it abused? Do you think it's abused? Buy it legally and you drink it. Like, why is it abuse? Think about.
Well, as we kind of finish this up, guys, 1 to 2 energy drinks is fine. Separate them by a little bit.
Yeah.
Coffee, you can get away with a little more coffee because it's only 80 to 120 milligrams of coffee. No, just chill.
It affects it benefits you to be aware of the risks and know how your body handles it. You go from there.
And dosaging,
Matters.
actual dosaging. So many
Mhm.
things this way. Dosaging, and you're keeping it within a reasonable realm, you're fine.
So, David, are you going to change anything about how you drink energy drinks after this episode? I would take that as a no.
No.
All right. Good stuff.
Pleasure. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.